In the twilight of children's literature, a disturbing and enigmatic story lurks, one that few dare to reveal. Peter Pan, the boy who defies aging, hides behind his image of adventures and laughter, an origin laden with shadows and dissonance, where innocence transforms into a veil concealing unsettling secrets. It all began with James Matthew Barrie, a writer born in Scotland whose life was marked by personal losses that drove him to explore the boundaries of reality. The accidental death of his older brother left a deep scar on young Barrie's soul. The painful absence of his brother spurred him to idealize childhood, to imagine a world where youth remained intact, protected from the relentless claws of time. This obsession with preserving what is lost in maturity would become the seed of a creation that, years later, would reveal itself as a dark mirror of his own inner anguish. During his walks through the parks of London, Barrie forged a unique bond with the brothers Lowell and Deddy. These children, whose vitality and spontaneity stirred mixed emotions within him, became the muses of his tales. Amidst games and impromptu stories, the writer began to sketch the outlines of a character who, on the surface, represented the liberation from the adult world, but who, in a hidden vision, harbored an ambiguous and disconcerting nature. The first incarnation of Peter Pan emerged in early tales, in which he was described as a being who escaped the conventions of the real world to seek refuge in a realm of fantasy. With time, and through plays and literary narratives, the character transformed into the leader of a band of youths lost in a parallel universe known as Neverland. Yet, far from being an innocent paradise, this territory is revealed as a stage of eerie contrasts, a place where light mingles with shadow and joy conceals a note of despair. In Neverland, landscapes become ambiguous. Gardens blur into forests shrouded in persistent mist, and rivers reflect a clarity that hides unfathomable abysses. Children's laughter mixes with murmurs that seem to come from forgotten times, and in the silence of the night, echoes tell ancient legends. Some say that in these settings, the essence of children becomes trapped in an existence teetering on the macabre, condemning them to an endless vigil in a realm where time's passage takes on disturbing tones. Peter Pan's figure, far from being a simple symbol of freedom, assumes a dual role that both unsettles and fascinates. On one hand, he embodies the promise of an escape from routine and the inevitability of growth. On the other, he appears as an entity whose enigmatic gaze and ambivalent smile seem to draw a vital energy from his companions, plunging him into an uncertain fate. Some theorists have suggested that his true purpose is not merely to offer a refuge for childhood but also to transform that innocence into something almost spectral, a forced passage toward a state where the ability to dream comes at an unimaginable price. Barrie himself became entangled in a web of emotions and fantasies that defied the logic of the adult world. His relationship with the Davis children, although outwardly affectionate, was marked by an intensity that raised questions among those who knew his life. It is not uncommon to find in certain accounts insinuations that the author allowed himself to be carried away by an overwhelming, almost obsessive fascination, which drove him to reconfigure reality through the creation of an ambiguous and enigmatic character. This particularly intricate bond, full of complicity and mystery, adds another layer of disquiet to Peter Pan's origin, suggesting that what is seen on the surface is but one part of the hidden framework behind the narrative. The transformation of Peter Pan into a legend was not a linear process. Over the decades, theatrical and cinematic adaptations softened some of the darker hues of the original tale, turning the boy into, for the general public, a symbol of freedom and harmless mischief. However, in certain corners of literary criticism and in the collective imagination of those who seek beyond the evident, the image persists of a character who, despite his charming appearance, hides a complex and unsettling nature. The secret nooks of Neverland are dotted with stories recounting encounters with wandering shadows and whispering voices. It is said that on nights when the moon hides behind a veil of clouds, one can perceive silent footsteps and murmurs that seem to invoke ancient presences. Some residents of the city's less trodden quarters claim to have seen a boy with penetrating eyes, whose figure blurs in the darkness as if he were an echo of another reality. These urban legends have fueled the mystery surrounding Peter Pan, transforming him into an archetype of the inexplicable, a bridge between what is known and what hides in the twilight. Peter Pan's legacy invites reflection on the price of the immortality of childhood and the limits imposed on the human soul by the ambition to halt time. The obsession with evading the arrival of adulthood is revealed in this tale as a curse masquerading as a blessing, in which every laugh and game conceals the possibility of an irreparable loss. Thus, what at first seemed to be a celebration of freedom and escape becomes a somber warning about the fragility of existence and the inevitable transformation of vitality into an echo of the past. In every corner of this fictional universe, the narrative is enriched with nuances that defy easy understanding. Barrie's words resonate like an incantation, a call to enter a world where beauty is tinged with unease and where the boundary between the real and the imaginary blurs. The story of Peter Pan, told in a measured and enveloping voice, becomes a journey that invites the listener to question their own perceptions and to explore the limits of fear and the desire to escape the inevitable. In the end, what remains is the image of a boy who, though playful and carefree on the surface, hides in his gaze an ancestral sadness, a sign that the struggle against the passage of time always comes at a cost. Peter Pan stands as an enigma, a complex symbol that continues to stir questions and emotions in those who dare to delve into his dark origin. The tale reminds us that, in the theater of life, even figures that seem to embody hope can bear secrets that challenge comprehension, becoming a persistent echo of what lies beneath the surface of the everyday.